Hey there, Matt Walsh from Academy Home Buyers and MattWalshHomes.com coming at you today with another installment of our Becoming a Savvy Seller, right? Where we're giving you the tools you need to make the right decision when selling your home. Today we're going to talk about closings. What are they and how do they operate, right? Maybe you haven't been to a closing in a long time. You haven't purchased, when you purchased your property, you went to a closing, but maybe that was 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago or more. Maybe you've never really been to a closing and you are now settling the estate for someone, so you're selling a property for the first time. Closings are nothing really to be worried about. It's basically the means by which the ownership of property is being transferred to another and recorded for public record. They're very simple, right? At the closing, an intermediary, which is going to be a title agent or an attorney, right, depending upon the state and the location, oversees the transfer of title, which is ownership, from the seller to the buyer. All right, the following will be present at the closing table: the buyer and or their representative, right? You can do it by remote signing. I've bought and sold a couple of properties out of state. I never went to the closing. All right, the seller and or their representative, the lender, if there is one, and or their representative, and then you have the agents and attorneys. If I'm your agent on the buying or the selling side, I will be at the closing. All right, and then you have an attorney, if you have one, for the buyer, an attorney for the seller, an attorney for the lender. All right, all this comes out of your pocket too. This is what adds up to your closing costs. And then you have, of course, the closing agent, who is responsible for making sure all the paperwork is right, getting everything notarized and recorded, and takes ownership of the money, right? So earnest money that has been placed in escrow is in place with the closing agent. And at closing, they will disperse all the monies to where they're supposed to be. And the goal of all this is when the closing is done, ownership is transferred and recorded in government records so that the whole world is notified of new ownership. Now, prior to closing, you don't really have to worry about this. This is what happens in the background. But what happens is a title search is completed. All right. Why do we do a title search? A title search goes back usually about 50 or 60 years, sometimes a little bit longer, to determine all of the prior owners. We're looking for a continuous chain of custody. Person A sold it to B, sold it to C, to D, and E. This way, we know that there are no surprise heirs. If there is a gap in the title, and this happens from time to time, especially when you go back to old records, right, going back 100 years or so, things just get lost, right? But if there's a gap in that ownership, that means somebody could lay claim to your property because they may have had ownership 50, 60, 70 years ago, and they can say, hey, this is my grandfather's property. I still own it because I'm the heir. You can't sell it. Very important. That's why a title search is very important, and you cannot really purchase or sell property without having a title search done and making sure that you have a clean title. All right, what else are we looking for? We want to make sure that there's no claims against the home. Mechanics liens, tax liens, mortgages, second mortgages. Everyone's making sure that the title is clean and marketable. This means that the buyer is taking over a marketable, sellable, livable home, and no one else is laying claim to the home. Okay. At closing, you will be required to produce identification. And if you are doing a remote closing, you will show identification to a remote notary who will verify your identity and sign, and you will sign the documents, including the deed. All right, the closing officer will review all the documents, notarize the signatures that need to be notarized, and disperse checks to all the relevant parties. You'll give the keys to the new owners, and you're done. On the selling side, closings are really pretty simple. The buying side, especially in the retail world, closings are a little more difficult because you got to deal with lenders and such, and there's a whole lot of, when you're dealing with a lender and a bank, they need a lot of paperwork. On the selling side, it's really very simple, especially when you're dealing with something like a cash offer or an investment property. The closing for your end could be 20 minutes. You come in, you sign the deed, hand over the keys, and you're done. Nothing to be worried about. And until next time, I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.